可以所以咧喺呢個警務處處長有呢個行動項目，咁裏邊咧係內定咗咧今年2023年咧主要嘅警務工作，咁而家咧處理呢會大家睇住。咁而家另外啲處長係點樣？我有啲嘅意思。OK。中間。然後再右手邊條。前面綠色衫個彩座咧，唔該。多陣啊！多落少少唔該。等等啊，中間未影到啊。我就諗下呢啲啦。我有啲睇翻中間啊。綠色衫呢個咧。中間唔該，中間呢邊唔該。電腦啲影完之後咧。左手邊嘅影之話等保留張面麻煩，轉左手邊嗰陣啊，唔該。我睇下你後排電視台嘅攝影影下好嘛？嗰個時間差唔多。右邊，嚟多次啊，唔該。之後右邊啊。好唔該。咁而家請處長同埋3位副處長就講嘢。咁再次歡迎大家嚟今日記者會啦。立法會處長咧會簡介嘅香港警民情況同埋警務處長嘅動議工作。咁之後咧，你有提問嘅時間，先將時間交俾處長唔該。
Friends of the media, good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference today. Joining me on stage are Ms. Edwina Lau, Deputy Commissioner, National Security, Mr. Albert Yuen, Deputy Commissioner, Operations, and Mr. Zhou Chao, Deputy Commissioner, Management. I would like to give you a brief account of the overall law and order situation in Hong Kong in 2022 and the work priorities of the police force for this year. After the presentation, we'll be happy to answer your questions. In 2022, the overall crime figure of Hong Kong was 70,048, an increase of 5,620 cases over 2021, mainly due to an increase of over 8,647 deception cases. The overall detection rate was 35.2%. Excluding deception cases, the overall crime figure fell by 3,054 cases year-on-year. There were 8,830 cases of violent crime with a drop of 757 cases. The key types of crime that recorded a drop in cases included sexual offences, serious drug offences, criminal intimidation, criminal damage, and theft from vehicles. The number of robbery and burglary cases was a record low since we started to keep records in 1969. The number of cases of assault, wounding, and serious assault, arson, snatching, and pickpocketing was the lowest since the reunification. I will first talk about a few offences of relatively greater public interest. Murder. There were 30 cases of homicide, an increase of 7 cases compared to 2021. 15 of them involved domestic or family violence. All the cases were detected. Deception. In 2022, there were 27,923 deception cases, accounting for nearly 40% of the overall crime figure and representing a significant increase of 45%. About 70% of these cases involved online scams. The total amount involved was $4.8 billion. The increase was mainly attributed to online shopping scams, employment fraud, investment fraud, and telephone deception. These cases record an increase of between 40% and 180%. The monetary loss involved in investment fraud and the telephone deception cases remained substantial. The police continue to step up cooperation with the industry. Last year, bank staff helped to solve 232 deception cases, while the anti-scam helpline 18222 intercepted over $1.83 billion of payment in 888 deception cases. Furthermore, the police successfully neutralized a number of deception syndicates through intelligence-led operations last year, resulting in the arrest of about 1,300 persons. We have also been actively working with relevant government departments, regulatory bodies, and industries to strengthen collaboration on crime prevention and publicity. Together with the OFCA and the mobile network operators, we set up a dedicated working group at the end of September to formulate measures to combat telephone deception. Such measures include blocking bogus calls with the prefix +852, helping users to filter and block hyperlinks of fraudulent websites, terminating network service to local mobile phone numbers linked to scam cases. The aim is to stop deception at source. Last year, the police launched the Scam Meter database to help the public identify suspicious calls or emails. The search engine recorded about 200,000 searches, of which about 15,000 were related to confirmed deception cases. It could be deduced that users were successfully alerted and some $1.3 billion of loss was prevented. To make the app more user-friendly, the police will launch the Scam Meter Plus app tomorrow. It is a new mobile app. I will show you, my colleagues actually, will show you the app later. Now, on blackmail, there were 1,826 cases, an increase of 15%. The increase was mainly due to naked chat extortion cases, which accounted for 77% of all blackmail cases. Students remained the largest group of victims. In response, the police have been stepping up publicity to appeal to the public to guard against naked chat extortion cases by organizing, among other activities, a large-scale cyber security expo 2022 and school talks. We also launched the all-round cyber defense campaign in January to raise public awareness in cyber security and guard against cyber pitfalls. On triad-related crime, 2,554 cases were recorded, with an increase of 666 cases arising mainly from deception, an increase of 514 cases, serious gambling cases, an increase of 90 cases, car theft up 68 cases, and controlling of prostitution up 59 cases. The police are always concerned about triad-related illegal activities. In response to the serious violent cases of triad involvement last year, the police immediately stepped up collaboration with relevant government departments and mainland law enforcement agencies to crack down rigorously on such cases. A large-scale anti-triad operation was mounted while an anti-illegal gambling operation was launched during the World Cup, leading to the arrest of over 1,000 persons. The police also stepped up efforts to combat the controlling of prostitution and deception involving triad elements. Over 200 persons were arrested and over 300 deception cases were detected. Robbery and burglary. With the stepping of targeted police patrols in intelligence-led operations, the number of robbery and burglary cases, as I mentioned earlier, continued to drop significantly last year. The figure was the lowest since we started to keep records in 1969. For robbery cases, there was a drop by 37% year-on-year to 77 cases. The detection rate was 74%. It was the second highest in 46 years. For burglary, the number of cases also fell sharply by 40% to 886. The detection rate was 43%. Again, it's a record high in 46 years. Sexual offences, there were 53 cases of rape, a drop of 26%. All cases were detected. Indecent assault cases recorded a 6% drop to 953 cases. The detection rate was 81%. There were 16 cases of rape and indecent assault where the victims came to know the suspects online, a drop of 24 cases. The police will continue to monitor the trend of sexual offences and conduct sex-specific publicity and education in collaboration with various stakeholders.
Serious drug offences, there were 1,436 such cases, down almost 10%. Whilst there was a drop in the number of cases, there was a surge in the quantity of drugs seized. This is mainly due to our intelligence-led approach in intercepting the drugs at source and preventing them from getting into the market. Last year, a number of large-scale drug trafficking cases were detected. In some cases, 485 kilograms of methamphetamine, $230 million in market value, 4 kilograms of cocaine, market value of $370 million, and also 905 kilograms of cannabis spit with a market value of $190 million. We continue to promote anti-drug messages to the public. Last year, we launched the Anti-Drugs Campaign 2022, a large-scale publicity campaign. We have just kick-started the second Leadership Institute on Narcotics program. On youth crime, the police continue to enhance crime prevention work with school heads association, parent-teacher associations, and schools. Last year, we held activities such as the Junior Police Corps Summer Camp and also the publication of the Youth Crime Prevention Booklet to provide teachers, parents, and young people with coping strategies and crime prevention messages. Last year, 2,774 young people were arrested for criminal offenses, a year-on-year drop of 8.2%. The number of students arrested dropped by 11%. Cases of robbery, serious drug offenses, and criminal damage saw a significant drop. For robbery, there was a drop of 80%. For serious drug offenses, it was a drop of 40%. For criminal damage, that is splashing red paint, involving students, case count dropped by 17%. This shows over the past year, the police worked with various stakeholders, parent-teachers associations, and schools, etc. The effort helped heighten the alertness of students to such crimes. There was a 40% drop in the number of students arrested for serious drug offenses. 17 school children aged 13 to 14 were arrested for drug trafficking induced by drug traffickers. I'm sure you can agree that every such case is one too many because of the heavy penalties that come after. There's a need for the community to work together so that young people are not exploited by criminals. Young people may be misled by friends who are a bad influence. They may want to make quick money or be tempted to take part in illegal activities to provide their bank account for receiving the payment from fraud. There was a notable increase in the number of young people arrested for fraud. I want to turn to the national security law. On enforcement, the police arrested a total of 236 people. 140 of them have been prosecuted. Finally, our 4 operational priorities. First, we will continue to safeguard national security and promote counter-terrorism for all. Last year, there was still a handful of anti-China disruptors inciting others to take part in radical and illegal acts online. We must guard against homegrown terrorism going underground and the threat of extreme violence that comes out of it. The police will continue to raise the counterterrorism awareness of the public through various media platforms. So we promote the message of spot and report, and we'll also promote the counterterrorism hotline and the counterterrorism reward. This is to encourage parents and people to provide information on terrorism and violence. We will also enhance the counterterrorism preparedness of stakeholders. Second, continuing to enhance youth work. The police will continue to work in a cross-sectoral and multidisciplinary manner. We will adopt a soft approach. We will work with various sectors of the community to enhance the law-abiding awareness of young people, to prevent them from being exploited from criminals to engage in law-breaking behavior. We will also provide a broader platform for them to unleash their potential. Third, strengthening community liaison. The police will continue to keep up close collaboration with the community. Through enhancing policing services and transparency, we will boost the public understanding of police work and boost their trust in and support for the force. Fourth, ensuring public security, safety and order, and focusing on crime prevention and fighting crime. As COVID eases off, society is running to normalcy. The police will make every effort to ensure that public events, which are gradually resuming, are held in a safe and orderly manner. Meanwhile, the force will remain focused on law and order issues, including fighting scams. Since last September, the police have worked with stakeholders. We rolled out the scam meter. We have also launched an anti-deception campaign for all campaign at 17 government tunnels. We did product placement. And also, before the screening of movies, we introduced anti-scam videos. The police noted that the number of scams dropped from the peak in October for phone scams. There was a notable drop in the case count as well. I also want to take this opportunity to show you this tip sheet featuring common scam approaches. This is a reminder for people to watch out for scammers. $300,000 copies of this tip sheet will be distributed to the public through 2 free newspapers on February 17th. Tomorrow, we will also launch the anti-deception mobile app Scam Meter Plus. People can search for information on suspicious phone numbers, email addresses, and bank accounts to assess the security risks involved. The app can also give push notifications on anti-deception advice. We will now play a video to show you how Scam Meter Plus works. Have you ever tried online shopping, dating, job hunting, or even investment? But do you know if the other party's identity is genuine? The Scam Meter Plus app is perfect for you. The app helps you assess the risk of fraud in real time, and you can check it on your mobile phone anytime, anywhere. Enter the person's information, a phone number, a website, a bank account number. Click easy. It's that easy. The database contains information from reports to the police and ratings from information security companies. There are 4 risk levels. For example, if you want to transfer money to another party before making an online purchase, enter that person's bank account number in the app. If the search result is in red, that means the highest level of risk. This means the account number has been linked to a scam case recorded by the police. Or another example, someone receives a call with a prefix +852, enter that phone number, and you see a red color. This shows the phone number has been linked to a fraud case recorded by the police. If you see the search result in orange, this means medium to high risk. The name of a social account has been reported, or the phone number is associated with an unofficial scam report. The risk is still very high. Yellow means medium risk. There have been reports of scam involving similar phone numbers, and you still need to be vigilant. Purple means no record. That does not mean you're completely safe. You still have to stay vigilant. The app also contains a full range of information on technology, crime, and deception prevention, and you can read everything at a glance. The app will notify you as soon as the latest fraud prevention information is available. Don't want your family and friends to get scammed? You can share the deception prevention information with them instantly. The app also contains a list of links related to cybersecurity, including the e-report room. You can report a crime instantly if you need to. The Scam Meter Plus app is available for free download on your mobile phone. Download now to reduce the risk of deception.
In conclusion, the overall law and order situation in Hong Kong remains stable. The chief executive election and the activities of the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China were held successfully. Compared to other major cities in the world, the overall crime rate in Hong Kong has remained at a relatively low level. While the number of all reported cases and deception cases have gone up, the cases of robbery, burglary, and other offences that affect people's livelihood have seen a significant decrease. Such achievements were owed as much to the police's commitment to upholding law and order as to the heightened awareness of the public on crime prevention and their support for our work. That's all from me. We're happy to take questions from the floor. So the floor is now open to questions. Microphone will be passed to you. Please first raise your hand and identify your organization. Please limit yourself to no more than 2 questions. On the second row, the one in dark green. Good afternoon. I'm Anthony from Hong Kong 01. A number of questions. First of all, there's news that for the legislation protest, the police will make a new decision soon. What is your latest decision? Some of the cases may be withdrawn. How many people would be involved? Would there be additional conditions imposed, and how are you going to inform those involved? Are you trying to send out a message of great reconciliation? And then on online scams, we heard just now, in the past year, you've launched a number of operations. And still, with so much publicity, there are people who are scammed, including those who are highly educated or who are professionals. So how do you assess the risk of online scams? What other strategies do you have to combat such scams so that people won't lose any more money? Thank you. On cases involving the protests against the offenders legislation, we are reviewing these cases. We hope that within this month we're able to announce our decision. Therefore, I'm not going to say any more here. On scam cases, yes, you can see that last year there's been an increase of 75.5% of scam cases compared to 2021, so it's notable. And among these 27,923 cases, close to 40%, that means over 8,700 cases involved online shopping scams. I'm sure you know by now, online shopping is really popular, but at the same time, when you are doing online shopping, you need to be careful. And there are other scam cases, such as employment fraud, and investment fraud, online romance scams, or impersonating as officials, or guess who I am scams. These scams are rather common. And in the past 2 years, when it comes to publicity on scams, we've done much. We've been using various channels. So on TV, radio, social media platforms, we have done much publicity to disseminate anti-deception messages. And recently on TV, we have this new program, Offbeat 120 Seconds, so we keep repeating the messages. You may ask, how come we're still seeing an increase in cases despite so much publicity? We've actually talked to some of the victims. Yes, we may have done much publicity, but the victims may not have noticed that. you can imagine, every day you receive much information, many messages, but do you really read the messages carefully? Now, with our publicity efforts, say on TV or a radio program, even in TV programs, we try to tell people about the scam approaches. But if you don't watch it carefully, and then when a scam calls you, you wouldn't know that person is actually a fraudster. But if you are aware of their scam approaches, then you would know that at once. So the question is, how can we make sure the messages and the publicity actually reach people? So we're doing much on that now. Just now, I mentioned that in 17 government tunnels, we now do broadcasting of short messages. For example, impersonating some government officials, we try to remind the public that no mainland officials will directly call people in Hong Kong on case investigation. So that's what we've been doing. And then, say at cinemas, before the screening of a movie, we will also screen short videos. So even if you don't want to watch or hear about this, we impose it on you. So hopefully then it will reach you. And then another thing we're doing, apart from publicity, with anti-deception efforts, it's important that we work with the regulatory bodies and stakeholders. So together we could come up with ways to do more anti-deception work. For example, banks. We have close collaboration with banks in the past year or two. Say, if a bank staff member sees that someone wants to withdraw a large amount of money or wants to transfer a large amount of money to another account, the bank staff will actually ask the customer what it's for, and if they have any suspicion, they will immediately inform us, so we can try to find out if it's really a scam. Now we want to encourage bank staff to help out in the intercepting payment. So every year we have an award presentation ceremony for them. And apart from banks, we also ask mobile network operators to help out through OFCA. So there is collaboration with OFCA all along. Starting from last September, we set up a working group. As I mentioned, whenever there are calls with the prefix plus 852, if such numbers have been involved in scam cases, then we have stopped all such numbers. Also, there are hyperlinks of websites, and if these links were involved in scam cases, again, we will ask the MNOs to block these links. So we started this working group last September. Every month, together with the OFCA and the relevant mobile network operators, MNOs, we have a meeting, because we try to come up with more ways to combat deception more effectively. But perhaps I could also take this opportunity to say this. Now, it doesn't matter how much anti-deception publicity we do, as I said, some may not even take notice. But then you are all from the media, I'm sure you all are familiar with the scam approaches. So we need your help with publicity and promotion. And also, please remind your own family members and friends about these cases, because you find that for many telephone deception cases or online romance scam cases, when victims, after they've exhausted all their personal savings, they may be making loans everywhere. They may even start asking family members for loans. And usually family members, they can see what it's all about. And they may remind the victim that perhaps the person has fallen victim to scam, and only then the victims realize that. So you're all really smart. You know about such scam approaches. Don't just keep it to yourself. Please help us to publicize these messages and remind your family members. Thank you.
The gentleman in grey. I'm from TVB. Commissioner, you mentioned national security. The national security law has been in effect for 2 years or so. How was it implemented? Some countries allege that there's crackdown on human rights since the implementation of the NSL. What's your response? Recently, there's talk about legislation for Article 23 of the Basic Law. The chief executive said we will stick to the goal, but there are others argue that we shouldn't rush to the legislation. What's your view? For the crime figures last year, many scams had to do with the cyberspace. Due to COVID, many people had to work online. But now that we're returning to normalcy, are you worried about more crimes in the real world? In Pingchao, a police officer fired a number of shots. How's the investigation going? Are those 3 shots warranted? That's quite a number of questions from you. On the national security law, since its implementation, 236 people have been arrested, 140 have been prosecuted. Does the NSL erode on human rights? In developed countries overseas, do they have laws on national security? I believe the answer is in the affirmative. Safeguarding national security is a top priority for every country. Everyone wants to live in a safe and stable country. In terms of enforcement, since the NSL took effect, calm has returned to the community, but we cannot rule out the possibility of homegrown terrorism going underground. There are people taking the soft approach in their resistance. They're trying to incite people online and offline. For homegrown terrorism, tackling that will take more than the work of the police. That's why I mentioned this community-wide counter-terrorism effort and spot and report. If you see something suspicious, whether it's a people, it's an activity, or object, let the police know quickly. There are a variety of channels you can take. There is a reporting hotline. There is also a reporting hotline for the NSL. We're pleased to see that since the reporting hotline for the NSLs opened in 2020, more than 400,000 messages have been received. For the counterterrorism reporting hotline, which opened in June last year, we have had roughly 13,000 messages. Some messages led to follow-up actions and arrests. In 2 cases, we arrested suspects. They were in possession of weapons and chemicals. We encourage people to work with the police on counterterrorism and fighting violence, and helping the police on combating those problems. on law and order, or we're going to see more physical crimes. We're closely watching the situation. In January, we haven't seen a rise in crime numbers, but we will be closely watching how things go. Now, for the Ping Chao case, the case is in legal proceedings, so I am not in a position to comment on the case further. For our frontline officers, we have stringent requirements on the use of force. We attach importance to training on the use of force. After every incident, we do a full review. Where necessary, we enhance the aspects that what need. So many reporters want to put questions, so please limit yourself to no more than 2 questions, and brevity in questions, please. Another gentleman in gray. I'm from Mingpao. At the West Kowloon Law Court building, there was a fractured glass pane. Has anyone been arrested in that case? Has the bullet been recovered? Is that related to the trial of the 35+ case, or is it related to national security or terrorism? Turning to NSL. What's the police's response regarding to allegations of arbitrary arrests and people emigrating due to the NSL? Over the past year, some NSL officers asked to meet with certain people instead of investigating them. Does that point to a change in the police's approach? And for Basic Law Article 23 legislation, which law enforcement agency will be enforcing it? For the West Kowloon Law Court building, we condemn the act. This is a blatant case of violence against the judiciary. We take the case very seriously. Our Organized and Crime and Trial Bureau is investigating the case. I want to take this opportunity to remind the public that if you know anything about the case, please come forward as soon as possible. For the investigation and operational deployment, I cannot disclose those details. For the NSL arbitrary arrests, instead of putting that question to me, I invite you to consider this. During the blood-clad riots, there were those behind the scenes inciting young people to engage in mutual destruction, engaging in law-breaking behavior. Over the past couple of years, it's becoming more obvious that young people were induced to become foot soldiers, cannon fodder, by those behind the scenes with underhanded tactics. Young people broke the law and had to be put behind bars. For the families of these young people, they suffer. Many young people regret what they have done. For me personally, I visited some of these young people. I recall in one case, this young person told me, I put a question to this person, what they have to say. They told me, never let impulse get the better of you. There were those behind the scenes employing underhanded tactics, inducing other people's children to go to the front lines to break the law. Such underhanded tactics should be condemned by the community. Thank you. The journalist at the front, the gentleman.
English questions from the South China Morning Post. So the first question is on the overall law and order situation, in particularly the increase of scams among the different types of cases recorded last year. Is there any reason for the increase in the number of scams that the police can think about? Why is there such an increase? And also, why is there any particular pattern in the increase in the number of scams? Are victims getting increasingly younger, or are they focused on any particular groups? And what are the particular strategies the police will aim to tackle these increase in scam cases? Secondly, about the national security law, I've noticed in your priorities that national security and also terrorism remains as one of the priorities for the commissioner. Being that the anti-extradition law protests have passed and the national security law has been implemented, and in so far this year only 200-something people have been charged under this national security law, is the police perhaps putting too much effort on national security and terrorism instead of solving other issues, for example, the increase of scams instead? Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much for your questions. First of all, when you are talking about deception, obviously you can see that there was an increase of about 45% on the number of deception cases last year when compared with the figures in the previous year. When you ask about the reason for that, obviously we noted that during the COVID period, okay, over the past 2 to 3 years, many people are making use of the social media to communicate with people, or as I said, there were over 8,700 online shopping fraud, and obviously a lot of people, a lot of victims, they are making good use of the online, the social media to do various activities. And I think this is one of the major reasons why there was a substantial increase in the number of deception. The strategy to tackle it, earlier I have also mentioned when some of some other reporters has mentioned. First of all, publicity is extremely important, but how we are going to effectively make use of these publicity so that the people get the message. Because on a daily basis, we have received a lot of various messages from online. Okay, the point is that whether these publicity on deception, whether it can get into the minds of the victims, this is very important. And I trust that many of the victims, when we talk to them, they knew that we have anti-deception publicity. But when asked whether they have looked into the content, they said no. So that's why I have also mentioned that there is a need, when others, when in particular, when you know about the modus operandi of the deception cases, please also remind your relatives, family members, friends, etc. So this is very important because we need to pay concerted efforts in order to do these anti-deception measures. On the other hand, when you are talking about the national security law, later on I will see if DCPNS, Ms. Lau, has any additional comments. But on NSL, on anti-national, on these cases, okay, when you are talking about, only about 200 people being charged, when you are talking about whether too much efforts have been paid on NS law execution, I would say this is one of the major tasks of the police force, okay? And obviously, we need to pay more efforts on that. But whether we have paid too much efforts on that, I wouldn't agree that we have, but I would say this is one of the major tasks that we need to do. And I think this also applies to all different areas, countries all over the world. National security is the most important issue that every place we'll have to look into. I'll see if DCPNS has any additional comments, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. First of all, as the Commissioner has already emphasized, safeguarding national security is a matter of top priority for every country. And since the enactment of the national security law, Hong Kong has gone from chaos to order, and stability has been restored in the community. Nevertheless, the prosperity and the stability we now enjoy cannot be taken for granted. We stay alert to threats and dangers. We notice that a handful of individuals who are still attempting to endanger national security in different ways. For example, we've noticed there's homegrown terrorism activities, the lone wolf attacks on the 1st of July in 2021, and the arrest of some extreme violent groups in recent years illustrated that local extremists are hidden in the community. And some people continue to disseminate seditious and false information on different platforms to instigate others to break the law. And also, those absconded, and a lot of them are wanted persons, are still having external forces influence and still trying to disseminate seditious and false information to people in Hong Kong through various platforms. So police will need to remain vigilant and continue the intelligence-led operations with a view to preventing and deterring acts and activities endangering national security. And I take this opportunity to appeal all members of the public to provide intelligence through the National Security Hotline and the Counter-Terrorist Hotline and support our work in safeguarding national security. Thank you.
On the last row, the lady farthest away.
So 2 questions from our THK. So the first question is to follow up on the fraud cases. Why is it a trend? Do you expect it to continue? And perhaps you can tell us more about your proposal with the telecom companies currently, the SMS registration idea you just mentioned in the LegCo panel. And the second question would be about the NSL. So more than 230 people were arrested. Do you have a breakdown about the alleged crimes that they were arrested for? Do they include NSL-related crimes such as sedition? Yeah, and maybe the time frame. When were they arrested? Thank you.
Sorry, I can't listen to your first question. Can you repeat, please? Because just now the phone just rang.
Yeah. So this is a follow-up on the fraud cases. So why do you think it's a trend, and do you expect it to continue? And maybe you can elaborate more on your proposals with the telecom companies currently. For example, the SMS registration idea you just mentioned in the LegCo panel. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your questions. First of all, concerning about the number of deception cases, hopefully I would say, because we have been working in partnership with a lot of different organizations so far, and we would expect that the number of deception cases, I'll see whether it can decrease, because as a matter of fact, over the past few months, we could see, say for example, earlier I mentioned that the telephone deception, after working with the OFCA, and other MNOs, the mobile network service providers, we have been doing a lot of works and implement a lot of different measures. And as a result, over the past 2 months, we could see quite an obvious decrease in the number of telephone deception. Say, for example, in November 2022, there were over 440 cases on telephone deception. But in January, there was a substantial drop in the number, leading to only 149 cases of telephone deception. And of course, we would continue to work in partnership with the OFCA and also the MNOs. As I earlier mentioned, concerning about the working group that we have set up together with the OFCA and all other MNOs and also the MVNOs as well. They have been very forthcoming, and I said as an example, okay, say for those numbers with the plus 852, for all these mobile numbers, okay, if they were being used in previous cases, now the MNOs have agreed to stop all these numbers, okay. And on the other hand, you also mentioned about other measures that I've mentioned in the LegCo, okay, earlier. And we are continuing to have monthly meeting with these MNOs, MVNOs, etc., okay, in order to work out whether there are any additional measures that we can implement. And the SMS, because from time to time, okay, we have, I think a lot of victims have received some fake SMS messages. And what we are going to do is that we are working with them and see whether we can make an extra mark, okay, extra markings before the SMS message in order to, to identify the genuine SMS message. This is something that we are working with all these working partners, okay, but there are some more as well, and we are working closely with them in order to see whether we can further deter these deception cases. So as I said, all these different stakeholders, we need their support in order to work out further more measures in order to prevent the increase in the number of deception cases. Concerning about your question on the NSL, I do not have the breakdown of the enforcement figures at this stage. Maybe later on after the press conference, we will forward it to you. Okay, thank you.
好，下一位，第
Next question, third row, the lady in pale orange. I'm from Xinhua. In 2022, breaches of NSL, how does it compare to the year before? How was enforcement doing? What are some hidden risks in Hong Kong's law and order? And what will be the police's response? If you don't mind, I will respond in Cantonese. In 2022, breaches of the NSL, stability returned since the implementation of the NSL. But we cannot be complacent. As I said, we are concerned about homegrown terrorism. You may recall in 2021, on July 1st that year, there was a lone wolf attacker. Right outside Sogo, he attacked a police officer. We cannot stay complacent because we cannot rule out the possibility of such incidents. We will step up the gathering of intelligence. As Ms. Edwina Lau was saying, we appeal to the public to come forward with information. There's the National Security Reporting Hotline. There's also the Counterterrorism Hotline. We encourage people to provide information to us. Let us work together in counter-terrorism efforts. As I said, spot and report. Report anything suspicious you see. Online and offline, we're doing work. Online, there are anti-China forces on social media platforms inciting people. We keep an eye on the situation every day. When we identify the culprit inciting people, we will resolutely enforce the law to achieve deterrence. Thank you. We're almost out of time, so we'll take the last question. The journalist in black. I'm from the Hong Kong Economic Times. For cross-boundary crimes, we have seen employment fraud and human trafficking involving cross-border elements. What will be done to combat cross-boundary crimes? As normality returns, will we be seeing more crimes like these? Second question, Basic Law Article 23 legislation. The Chief Executive said within this year or next year, we will have consultation on the legislation. Does the force have enough manpower to support the work? First, cross-border crimes. We attach importance to such crimes. Last October, I attended an Interpol meeting. I took that opportunity to have bilateral meetings with representatives from 12 countries. We discussed ways to work together in fighting cross-border crimes, including cyber crimes. You know, cybercrime respects no boundaries. We need to work with other countries in fighting cybercrime. A couple of weeks ago, I visited Abu Dhabi. There we had this function organized by Interpol. At the meeting, there were people from 6 other countries. We had bilateral meetings. We discussed transnational crimes. We agreed on the need to strengthen cooperation in fighting cybercrime. More work needs to be done. We have resumed cross-boundary travel with the mainland. Three years ago, the figures do not point to a rise in crime figures due to the resumption of normal cross-boundary travel. More travelers come to Hong Kong. We will be closely watching to see if there's a rise in crime numbers. As soon as we see such a trend, we will take swift action to enforce the law to prevent such crimes. For the legislation of Basic Law Article 23, the consultation. Legislating for Article 23 is the constitutional duty of the SAR government, the Security Bureau, and the government at large. Will do consultation where appropriate. Thank you. We will stop the question and answers here, but here are now some concluding remarks from the Commissioner. It's Valentine's Day today. I wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. I see young faces here. If you're in a relationship, I hope you can get married soon. And also, I would like to present to each of you a box of chocolates. This is the anti-deception chocolate. It's perfectly edible. Inside, there's a sign that reads, "True love or gold." Scammers are out not just for love, but also for the gold, that is the money. There are both white and black chocolates inside. This means we must be able to tell black from white. When you see a possible scam, you need to look at it carefully to tell if it's a scam. If you're not sure, you can call the 1-822 anti-scam helpline. It runs 24/7. If you're in doubt, give the center a call. It's just a couple of minutes. And then we also have the scam meter. And then tomorrow, we will have the scam meter plus mobile app that will come out tomorrow. This app will let you check whether a phone number or an email address is associated with a scam. Finally, I want to stress this point. Friends of the media, help us out. Help us spread the word with all these anti-scam messages. This is so important. We have seen a surge in scam cases. Many people lost their life, the savings, and then they take out loans. They go to finance companies. Previously, there was a non-government organization. That NGO compiled a stat. Scam victims, for 1 out of 5 got suicidal because they lost all their savings and they incurred huge debt. You may not be a scam victim, but there may be one among someone around you. Nobody wants to see that happen. Some seniors fall prey to scammers and lose all their savings. So help us out. Spread the anti-scam messages. Remind the people around you. Again, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you. The press conference concludes here. Thank you.